No, I am in the Museum of Art in Fort Wayne. This is a hidden gem, you guys, and I'm so excited because I get to sit down with Amanda Shepard and talk about the amazing exhibitions that she has going on in the Art Museum. So come with me. Look at this amazing artwork. Look at the colors. My goodness. And this mirror. Like, I think I might put this in my rehearsal studio or something. Awesome. Tell us about the Fort Wayne Museum of Art.
We have expanded over the years. We've added gallery space. We've added to the collection. In just about 17 years, we've added 5,000 objects to the collection. So this is kind of a boom time for us, and we're really enjoying contemporary glass. So this is by Seattle-based artist Martin Blank, and he has a big team of people that help him create these amazing glass installations. This was actually originally commissioned for a big building in Chicago by the Lurie family. The title of the piece is Repose in Amber, and it's kind of a meditation on organic forms in these beautiful tones of amber and ruby and cranberry. And it might be difficult to see, but the artist actually has explained that it's a reclining female figure. And so he calls this the head island, and he calls this the torso island, and over here is the hip island, and then the calf, and then down there are the little curly toes, the toe island. So when you look at it, he wants you to think of the sensual curves of a female figure, but then he also wants you to meditate on the positive and the negative space. It's very important to him that the space between elements is considered just as much as these positive elements here made in glass. So as I mentioned, we've added several thousand objects to the collection since 2003, and a lot of major American museums have hundreds of thousands of objects. So for us to have 8,000 or 10,000 objects in the collection is actually on the smaller scale. So we have been consciously building and building and building the collection so that we could have more to exhibit and more to preserve in the history of American art. So this exhibition is actually what we've acquired in the past year. It's a collection of gifts and purchases. So we get work for the collection, both from generous donors and then also by our own purchases out in the art marketplace. So what these artworks have in common is that they all came into this museum in 2019. There are criteria, there's objective criteria, like is this artist prolific? Have they made a lot of work? Are they established in some way? Do they exhibit nationwide or worldwide? Are they collected? And then you have to start looking at things like quality. For example, is this glass sculpture kind of the cream of the crop as far as glass sculptors go? And you know those things by looking at a lot of glass sculpture. And so you have to be able to judge, this is better than 90% of what I've seen. And it takes a while to develop that eye, but with some practice and with some really careful and engaged looking, you can kind of develop some taste for what might be a good fit for our collection. And then there are pieces like this that are just like yes, wow. I gotta have that. And it's those pieces you just want to be able to see yes. That's not even a rational response even, it's just a yes, gotta have it. The artist Dan Clayman, he does a lot of really minimalist work, and something like this it looks very modern, but it is so, so beautiful. Just so beautiful. And the artist does a lot of these very spare, very striking, but very monumental sculptures, a lot like this.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'll put it in my home.
We consciously collect diversity, a mix of artists, mostly American artists. That's what our mission is, American and related art. Consciously trying to add women to the collection, ethnic minorities to the collection, and even artists that are kind of under the radar a little bit, artists that make really good work but maybe aren't famous, so to speak. You know, we all have in our heads those famous artists like Van Gogh and Picasso and Pollock, and they're all wonderful, and they all, you know, kind of loom large in American art history, but there are hundreds and thousands of artists that might get forgotten if you don't add them to your collection. So that's a lot of what we do here. A lot of these American printmakers here that document kind of our rise as a nation, our CEO, Charles Shepard, and he's the chief curator as well, he really likes to look for those printmakers that are documenting kind of our industrial past.
Yes.
A lot in the 20th century. So you'll see a lot of that being added to our collection right now. And then some artists that are working with different media, like this artist right here, Liz Quisgard, she's working with yarn. We're really looking for those artists that elevate material kind of to this transcendental plane that, again, they might get passed over in some of the kind of bigger art markets. This is a really important new addition to the collection. It's by Heather Day. She is an emerging artist out of the Bay Area, and she is coming up out of the tradition of abstract expressionism, and yet she brings her own voice to the genre. She likes to explore color as a scent or a sound, so she's very intuitive and deliberate with how she chooses her colors. And what she does in her studio is this canvas might be on the ground actually, which is what a lot of the abstract expressionists did, but she's pouring her paint, and she's pouring it very carefully and very deliberately so that you get these kind of ethereal pools and clouds of paint.
A lot of gradients.
But nothing gets muddy. You know, nothing gets dirty, nothing gets confusing. It all maintains its integrity.
Yes.
But then everything is intermingling really beautifully. And then when she's done with those first layers, and you can see there's 4, 5, 6 pools of paint, she actually goes through with like an oil crayon and kind of makes these final layer marks on her canvas. So these are by American artist Thurman Statham, and he is unique in his sculpture in that he actually engages in some destructive processes to get these kind of assembled pieces. And by destructive, I mean he's breaking little pieces of glass and rock and then reassembling them back into his sculpture. And you'll see that in some of these other assemblages too, and then this smaller ladder over here. And he's also using some hand drawing and painting, which if you look at some other glass sculptures, you'll see a highly finished, highly polished, just stunningly beautiful sculpture. And these are beautiful in a different way. He's actually said, I want my work to appeal to people of all ages. So if you were younger, or if you didn't have as much experience with art, the kind of playful, colorful, kind of crafty look to his work would appeal to you. It was really important that he has that accessible aesthetic to his work.
And I think sometimes when you see what would be deemed as a less polished, that there's actually a level of rawness and authenticity that is really beautiful.
Yeah,
you know,
kind of like an abandonment with his work, and you can see the imagination of the artist, and two, you know, just when an artist is fully themselves and just like unabashedly themselves, they're not trying to mimic another artist. Yes, they might be looking at other artists, but they're not like oh, I'm trying to be like X artist. They are being themselves. You can see that in work like this. It's just utterly distinct from anything else. Major artworks were celebrities to me. Like I remember seeing Monet's water lilies in France, and just by judging like the hush hush around it, I knew I was around something special. I wasn't mature enough to grasp what I was looking at or even really know who Claude Monet was, but that experience and going to the Louvre when I was a little girl, like just feeling like I am small in this really big place, and I liked that. And I had skills in art. I draw in my room, and I knew I was pretty good at it.
You painted on the walls,
crayons
in the bathroom. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean I copied album covers.
Nice.
Yeah, so I did that a lot, and I did a lot of portraits of my family and my friends. But a lot of kids aren't encouraged to seek art as a career. I think that it's kind of elusive, like how do you get into it? Not that anybody discouraged me or anything, it just nobody sees a clear path in. But I actually decided to major in art in college, and I just kept taking the next step. Okay, if I'm going to take a painting class, maybe I'll get a bachelor's in this, right? Or maybe I'll get a BFA in this. Maybe I'll try an internship at a museum, and maybe I'll try for an exhibition at the student gallery. Just taking every next step. Right. And meeting the next person. I applied for an internship here, and then I just kept saying yes to every job that was in front of me until I got to where I am. I think that it's a necessity in the sense that our truest humanity depends on it. We need food and shelter and clothing and all those things, but that's not what distinguishes us as humans from the rest of the world. What distinguishes us as humans are our spirits and our kind of eternal desires, and things like art really tap into that. When I was a freshman in college, I lost my father to suicide, and that was when I was trying to okay, I'm here at college, and I'm going to declare a major, and I'm going to do the reasonable thing and become a doctor, because that's a clear path to success. Yes. And I did like science a whole lot. I could see myself as a doctor. College level science classes, though, were beyond me at that point. College level art classes were not beyond me. I figured that out pretty quickly. So, it was sort of like my dad had just passed away, and tragically, he was gone immediately in the worst way possible, and our whole family we all went in our separate corners for a while.
Sure.
And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna go back to the thing that when I was a kid, a little girl, that I knew was planted within me. I knew that I was good at art, and I have amazing professors here at Notre Dame that could teach me this. Why not do it now? I did a lot of work about my changed feelings of home. Our family home was fundamentally changed because my dad wasn't there, and also when you lose a parent kind of on the cusp of your adulthood, everything, your whole life changes, because you look back on everything and you think, like, in a way that's gone too. going home for Christmas is not the same because the same traditions they're not the same, and you kind of have to unfortunately leave that behind and leave it in the past. You can't get it back. So I was grappling with a lot of disintegrating home pictures, and my mom is a beautiful, strong woman, so none of this is to say that my mom hasn't for 16 years done everything she could to keep us together, but it's just fundamentally different and nobody can change that. So I did a lot of stuff like that. And then my senior thesis project was I love Andy Warhol, and I love his repeating pop culture, repeating figures. And so I replicated an image of my dad when he was 19, 20, so young and handsome and full of life. He's wearing this tank top and he looks all I think he was with my mom. They look kind of romantic in that picture. And he has this sleepy, beautiful look on his face. And I painted that 4 times, but each time the image was lighter and lighter, and then there was a setting sun behind it, so the sun is setting down on his image. And it was all about how I was really scared about losing his memory, because I was I don't remember what his voice sounds like, I don't remember what he looked like, don't remember what he smelled like, and I was just worried that I wouldn't remember him at all. And I had this anxiety, where does the memory of a person go? Are our memories stored anywhere besides our brains? I came to this conclusion that God keeps things for us. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a thing that soothes me, because I think, okay, my brain is limited, my memories will fade, they have to be somewhere in the universe. I would say, if you have any creative part of you at all, don't ignore it and don't set it aside. Don't set it aside for something that you think is more important, or something that you think is going to get you somewhere. Yes, we all have to eat, we all have to work, we all have to live, but if you have a creative spark, act on it. I can't tell you how many times I've had these I have to paint now, and if I don't do it now, it's gonna go away. And I would tell anybody, don't let those opportunities pass you by. For those of us who maybe are art enthusiasts and we don't make art necessarily, I would say the same thing. You have to make time for it, or else you won't do it, and you just have to make it a priority. I think it's hard to see him young and healthy, and it's hard to see that image of him because that's how he should be. But unfortunately, a lot of our memories, are filled with other things, and so you see that beautiful picture of him smiling and carefree. For me, it's cathartic, and I think I just wanted to open it wide up and talk about it. I had strangers write to me and say, I had the same thing, I lost somebody important to me, this changes everything for me, this is exactly what I'm feeling. And when art can impact somebody that you'll never meet or that you don't know, there's nothing else in the world that can do that. Yeah. Music, yes. You write music and you don't know who's going to hear it or how they're going to react to it. Right. Or think of even paintings from hundreds of years ago. 300 years later, it's they are a household name and they're changing people's lives.
Yes.
I think that's a really great thing about art.
Amanda, thank you so much for having me at your museum.
Oh, this has been
and
great.
for
Thank
sharing your works of art, and thank you for sharing your story of how art can really transform your heart during hardship.